Now, Israeli government spokesman Mark Regev charges that Human Rights Watch has allowed an anti-Israel agenda to pollute its objectivity. Gerald Steinberg is president of NGO Monitor, which also has accused Human Rights Watch of anti-Israel bias. NGO Monitor is based in Jerusalem. He joins us now. Thank you for your time. First, I just want to give equal time here and get your response to this Human Rights Watch report and what it calls Israel's harsh discrimination.
Look, I think that Human Rights Watch is, in fact, using the language of morality, but in fact is a very political and a very negative organization. During the break, during the news item, we just saw that there are hundreds of people arrested in Belarus. We saw that in the Ivory Coast there are massive human rights violations. Those are of no interest to Human Rights Watch because they are a political organization. And the founder, Robert Bernstein, has denounced them for losing the moral compass. This is an anti-democracy organization. It's frankly an immoral organization, and this report is just another example of that.
But let's talk about some of the specific facts that they allude to. They said they had a number of case studies around the West Bank and East Jerusalem, and they talk about, as we just heard, permit denials for Palestinians, saying that it has no real security reason for being. What can you attribute those denials to?
Well, first of all, there are no facts in this report. This report is entirely based on other reports written by other organizations. In many cases, in fact, unfortunately, the people from Human Rights Watch who wrote this report got even those facts wrong. In other words, what other organizations wrote, which are not verifiable, in some cases are wrong, are in this report misquoted. They drove around for a few hours or a few days and interviewed, they said, 60 Palestinians. That's what went into this report. This was targeted in advance. We are going to do another attack against Israel. It's a political attack. We're going to call it human rights. We're going to use the language of the 1950s in the U.S. human rights struggle, which has absolutely nothing to do with the Middle East conflict and its intensity and the violence and the terrorism that we've seen. So this is, in fact, got nothing to do with facts. There's no research, there are no facts, there's no human rights in this. This is strictly political. This organization has no qualifications to work in the areas that it does. And frankly, their Middle East division has been exposed as being headed by people who are entirely partisan and very much have extreme hostility,
all right.
I'll say it.
Mr. Steinberg, you have made that point.
There's no research and no human rights.
I just want to get your perspective then. Are you saying there are no disparities in the West Bank and East Jerusalem when you look at the lives of the average Israeli and Palestinian? Why don't you paint the picture for us?
I think there are disparities in many parts of the world, and what we have here is a very difficult conflict. You can go to any country in the world, you can go to the United States, certainly see rich and poor. You can go to other parts of the world and see this, certainly throughout the Arab world, they're very wealthy and very poor people. Those are not of interest to Human Rights Watch because what they really are is an anti-democratic organization. We are in the area which there is a great deal of conflict, and the segment on settlements ignores the fact that this conflict started long before settlements. This is such a complex conflict. To take one aspect out of context and to focus on that becomes strictly political. So yes, there are many difficulties to be done, but the way to resolve them is not to take a sledgehammer and bash Israel over the head over and over again in an immoral way. It's to look at the very complex issues and find ways for the Palestinian people to develop their own lives and to be able to offer the Israelis the type of peace, the type of two-state solution which says we will no longer use violence against you and we will accept Israeli help. What this report is also is very patronizing towards the Palestinians. They are only victims. They are incapable, according to Human Rights Watch, of running their own lives. And frankly, I think that's extremely insulting to the Palestinians.
All right, Mr. Steinberg, at least we found the shade of similarity that you acknowledge. There is a disparity in the region. The reasons, though, of course, you disagree with. We appreciate your time and thank you for joining us here on Prism today.